What's up, Leo gang? Welcome to my channel, Tarot by the Intuitive Teacup. That's me. My name's Annie. We're going to read your tarot cards here today. Second time trying to do your reading. The first one was just too muddled, so I'm hoping for more clarity. My intention is for more clarity with this reading for Leo. This reading is general. It will be geared specifically towards my Leo rising gang. But of course, if you are a Leo sun, moon, Venus, if you're anything, you're welcome to join this reading. As long as you come with an open heart and an open mind, a desire to better yourself. I want these messages to motivate, empower, inspire you, and if you're not feeling that way, it might not be your message or it might not resonate yet. So give it time. Never force anything to fit your circumstance or scenario. But yeah, allow your mind to wander off, to ponder some messages that come about, and again, maybe it'll make sense in the future. Those are really all my rules, all my my whole spiel right there. Empress. Alright, I was called to use this deck. I don't use this deck a lot. It's really beautiful. It's a lot of characters, so sometimes it overwhelms me of like, who's who, which I see a little bit here, but we're going to work through it together. Did I tell you everything? Like the video, subscribe to my channel. Let's hop in and read your tarot cards. Happy birthday. That was the other thing, Leo. Happy birthday season. I know most of it has already passed, but doesn't mean you can't celebrate yourself all year round. So what are you waiting for? Three of Wands, waiting for your ships to come in. Well, here's what potentially could be coming in. Take only what resonates. News that someone is pregnant. Whether it's you or someone else, if that is something you're waiting to hear or looking forward to, again, I ain't no doctor, but the results look very positive. In terms of if you were waiting for pregnancy or something about delivery too. So maybe that's going to make sense in a more of a metaphor. Positive news about babies. Yeah, you may be waiting results about your child. Especially acceptance into a school, like a higher education, if that makes sense to anyone, if you've been worried about it. There's something very positive going on with the child and education, specifically like university level. Also, because that obviously won't be for everyone, good news about a road trip with your sweetheart. Good news about traveling with a dating partner, or again, your child as well. Very interesting how these are kind of in conversation. And there may be a bittersweet connection here where you're, just scenarios. You're so excited they got into college, but this means you have to say goodbye. Like, I see that happening, but this is about channeling your more brave, bold, kind of masculine energy. The Chariot always needs to pull forward. It is about balancing that duality, the bittersweet, the dark, the light. That's how this Chariot pulls forward. So with that, there may be a need to detach yourself a little bit, especially, I almost sense like if this is a very close relationship or a close connection, giving this a little bit of space and breathing room, I think will probably strengthen the bond. So that's the first message that came through for you. Let me look at this in a more broad sense. Some of you may end up dating a Cancerian in the next few weeks, or maybe you currently are. And I almost get, if that message does make sense to anyone out there, like I almost get the idea like this could be the one, or this could be someone who you possibly would consider building a family with, even if that previously was never something you I'm hearing the word required. I don't know why I'm hearing required. Desired is really what I was going for there. It may also end up being, obviously, depending on if you are of age where you could be pregnant. If that's not the case so much, it could be that this Cancerian that you may or may not end up dating has children from a previous marriage, so by default you may end up playing mom or dad, or do you understand what I mean? All this is having a really beautiful relationship to one another, and there's something very healing about this connection. Even if it does involve the child moving at a greater distance, there's a strengthening that comes in that. So all those are very positive messages. Even if you heard some of them and went, uh-oh, there's something that's actually going to work out in your favor. Secrets in the house, in the family and in your roots and your ancestry, there could be issues with drinking or alcoholism, and okay, but again, the positive version, the reason why this is coming up, because I'm never here to give you problems and difficulties. I'm here to like address them and help you find solutions. Healing is coming to that. So there may be a long overdue talk, especially with a mother figure or a water sign, again, a Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, who may have really struggled with alcohol or any really addiction issue, but it's almost been like this family secret, like don't talk about it, in a really awesome, beautiful way. It's like by giving it that light and attention, you're making it okay for this person to seek help and heal from it. And obviously, if this isn't you, and I don't think it is, but maybe it is, if it isn't you, you can only do so much, right? You know, you can offer your sympathy, your compassion, you can whatever, offer to take them to AA or whatever, but you can't force it and you can't fix this person, right? You can only allow yourself to be sort of an initiator of the conversations, but also because you are a fixed fire sign, you can maintain that loyalty, that connection, that drive, that support, however you want to say it, to help this person heal. And there may actually be another Leo involved, a Leo who may have spent time in the hospital, or if it's not addiction issues, it could have been a condition they were born with, something chronic, or a Leo who spent lots of time in the hospital, or even potentially dealing with difficult psychological issues. I see there being a really strong connection and an opportunity to heal something that has never properly been healed, or never properly addressed in a way that promoted growth of this relationship or growth out of a difficult cycle. I hope that's making sense. You and the zodiac signs don't really matter, but sometimes I'm just called to say them. You and another Leo, this may also involve a Pisces or a Cancer. There's a lot that has gone unsaid that needs to be said, but the mere idea of having the conversation is very emotionally overwhelming for one, if not both of you. But there's a call to action, if you will, for you to express what's in your heart. And it's being shown to me in a very childlike, well, maybe that's not the right word, innocent, pure way. This person, because they're being relayed to me as a page, again, there's like a youthful energy or spirit. They're just saying what they need to say because that's all they can do. This person doesn't necessarily bring a lot of baggage or resentment, or like there's nothing under the surface. What you see is what you get. And so I feel like that is how, if this makes sense, that's how you're being asked to come into this connection or this conversation with just like this openness of tackling matters of the heart. And for some of you, there may have been a disapproving parent, especially a mother, or a mother that played a role in you disconnecting from or rejecting someone who you really had a strong connection with in terms of like more romantic, I think, though it could be a friendship as well. It's almost like you had a discerning, that's not the word, like a disapproving mother, and you felt like you had to sever off this connection because she didn't approve of it. And I mean, I don't know the background of the story. I don't know if she was right or wrong or somewhere in between. But more or less, I do think it provoked a lot of resentment in you of what could have been. And you know, if nothing ever came of this connection, your friendship, this lover in the long term, your mind may typically go almost to like fantasy land of what could have been, when really we don't know. So there's no way of knowing what that could have been, but there is the ability for you to go back and sort of rewrite the narrative or right the wrong, because ultimately, hang with me, this sounds harsh, but you chose to absorb the narrative that your mother was projecting on you. Now you were a child, maybe you had no choice but to do that. But now, assuming my adults are watching this, right? If you're 18, click off. You're too young for tarot. I shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. Assuming you're coming at this with a higher intelligence, you know, you've grown over time, you see things from a different perspective. I think there is a need to go back and forge a better connection with your roots or with your past, maybe with this possibly romantic connection or friendship, but also I do want to say with the mother, there's a lot of feminine mother-child energy. And I always want to say too, for some of you, just because they're not here physically in the 3D, alive, breathing, right, doesn't mean you can't heal the soul and spiritual connection that you had with a very influential parent in your life. And that doesn't mean influential in a good or bad way, but for a lot of you, it does feel like there's some negative connotations to that. I'm just putting it out there. Healing bonds, healing connections. That's a big theme of this reading. This looks cute. Lot of water energy. So I don't know if you strongly resonate with that, if you're Cuspian Cancer, or you have stelliums and Pisces, or maybe those are the people around you if you seem to attract water signs. A lot of water in this reading, specifically Cancer and Pisces. Yeah, like deep in like in your soul, it feels like you're still hurt or broken up about something. And I'm not saying it is the solution, but one possible thing to wrap your head around is the idea of expressing that, which can sometimes be uncomfortable, right? But it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I feel like frequently the things that scare us the most are usually worth doing because it allows us to grow. The comfort zone is comfortable, but it doesn't mean it's where we're meant to reside long term. You guys know this. You guys know this. I'm just throwing gems at you. All right, so House of... I'm trying to get like another storyline here. Give me a second. I do see an opportunity of possibly connecting with someone romantically or someone you're already dating or in partnership with, where you're on the fence about an issue with the child. It could be an issue of, do I want to have children? Or if there's already children in this relationship, stepchildren, whatever, there's something you're sort of indecisive about, and it may revolve around the topic of money, tuition, I don't know, savings, I don't know, something about money. It could even be helping this child buy a house. There may be differing opinions on how much is too much, or... keep in mind what... interesting. It's like turn it back to yourself. Keep in mind that it is important for this child to grow and develop as an individual and not be overly influenced by the authority figures in their life right now. Obviously, you're looking out for their safety and their health and all that, but there's also a message here of in what ways was your freedom or self-expression denied, and how have you suffered because of it? Again, it's sort of like watch the generational line of what you're passing on to your children, even unintentionally. It's fascinating when you really start to look at the patterns of your life and how it really does relate back to things you experienced as a child. You know, the mere fact that these terms, daddy issues and mommy issues exist, it really... our foundational thoughts and feelings and ideas are rooted in what our parents or whatever those figures in the household are at an early age. And so sometimes we don't know any better to actually like dissect them as adults and be like, wait a minute, that's not how everybody else thinks and does it. So there is something very powerful and profound about what you're passing on to your child, especially in terms of rules or ideas or philosophies or thought or perceptions of things. Allow this child to be their own person. And with that, I think it's muddled because there might be money involved. So I almost see this as holding them hostage or an ultimatum of, okay, well, I'm going to help you, purchase your first home, but it's almost like there's terms and conditions. And again, I'm not saying yay or nay to that. And this might be you, Leo, too, if you're requiring financial help from a parent or something like that. But again, there's a weird... I would say subtle manipulation to this gift. It's not a no strings attached situation. There are absolutely strings attached. And I guess because it's making an awkward connection, I'm wanting to highlight that as an area where there's tension. There's frustration there, so rather than just signing on the dotted line with blind faith, and I mean that, more symbolically, I would really dig deeper into this about like, well, what does this mean? And so if I accept this money from you, I have to stay, whatever, in this state, or I can't, what are you being forced to do because of this gift, or vice versa? What are you expecting out of your child by helping them with that? And y'all know, I never mean to offend, right? I'm posing the question. I see that being a difficult conversation. And that may be completely unrelated to everything we've talked about thus far. It might be related. Other of you, it seems like you're going to have... two sources of income, or maybe two part-time jobs, or two very important colleagues showing up in your work life in the coming month or so. And one of them is foolish. I got that message earlier, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go there yet because I'm getting it again, though. There's something about this one or that one. You may be tempted to do both. You may be tempted to release another and move towards the other. It's similar in that not all that glitters is gold. That's what I'm being told to say. It's almost like a flash in the pan. You may cling on to someone because you see them having great success, or it has something to do with like speed. It's like they move up in the company or the corporate ladder very fast, and it's almost like you're trying to emulate them or gain information or insight from them. And again, I'm not stopping you from that. I would be careful not to mirror their exact trajectory because it would set yourself up for failure or at minimum disappointment and unexpectedly too. I know that seems like a grim message. Again, this is not to freak you out or make you fearful. It really is about trusting your intuition. So if what I just said, it instantly rung a bell and you're like, oh, that's that, well then listen to your intuition. There's something about you're very indecisive, and I almost want to say to jump for something, but the information or the background, it's not, it's not factual, or there's not solid enough a foundation to feel confident that if you jump, you're going to land on your feet or something will catch you. It lacks a safety net. And I'm not here to tell you to not take risks and not, trust your gut instincts. If anything, the opposite. Absolutely trust your gut instincts, but you are responsible for them, not this tarot reading, right? Do you understand what I mean? I just kind of keep seeing a message where there's two sources or two people, and I don't know if you're going to do a 180 and go from this one to that one. I would either, I don't know how I want to say this. I'm hearing separation. At first I was going to say, I don't know if you can incorporate both, so rather than jumping from one extreme to another and, excluding this source and just doing that, is there a way to ease into the transition so that if one doesn't work out, you still have the other one? But what I'm hearing is keep them separate, keep them separated. And I don't know how to describe this, but I'm almost seeing it, this is going to sound weird, but I'm just going to share it with you, like pouring 2 cups of water into one bowl. There's no digging them back out separately. Like once they're in there, it's the merging of two. Like it gets muddled, it gets messy. I don't know if this has to do with creative collaborations, and then, I don't know, I'm just like, in the long term, it's like, well, whose idea was that? Like almost fighting for creative control when it's all wrapped into each other, like it's intertwined, there is no... So for some of you, if that makes sense and that's your goal, then awesome. That's your confirmation that, yeah, once you put it in the pot together, it's like a stew. There is no separating the potatoes and the carrots. And for others of you, though, if you're thinking, well, I'm going to try it, and if I don't like it, I'm gonna pull out, that I don't see going well. That's all I mean by that. It's just cautionary stuff, guys, right? And the fact that the Fool showing up with the 3 of Swords, I don't love it, but the positive side to this is the Fool sometimes doesn't look before they leap. And so if that's the case, if you don't look and just leap, you're going to end up with a little 3 of Swords. Disappointment, pain, sorrow, depression, feeling, whatever, sadness, guilt, shame, whatever it is. It could be a million things. You can future-proof yourself because this is what's coming up technically like in the future position of what you might be building towards if you don't heed the advice of your spirit guides, your intuition, confirmations possibly in this tarot reading, again, if it makes sense. And my moral code forces me to tell you that if I said this and it doesn't make sense, but already you're fearing what it could be, you're misusing this tarot. This is not to incite fear. This is to give you confirmations on things you're like, I had a weird feeling about that guy. I want to trust him. He's so look at the bells and whistles. There's an illusion to this. It seems like it could be great, but dig deeper. And again, similar messages, dig past the surface level of it. Because I'm getting once it's intertwined or once you really forge that connection, separating it will be tricky, if not impossible. Now I'm sort of getting this idea of alimony, or do you understand what I mean? It seemed great at the time, but in the long run you realize you're too different, and yet now you're in debt to this person forever. Or especially regarding creative work, creative control. I'm hearing royalties. so such a Leo thing. The entertainers of the zodiac. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to move away from that. 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 I'm going to m Yeah, and I just have to go with my... I have to go with my gut instincts. You know, this tarot reading, the timeline of manifestation is up to you, but I don't typically say this, but I will. In terms of a brand new collaboration coming through, someone you've never worked with, a field you've never worked in, if it comes out of nowhere and it seems too good to be true, it might be. You need to do the research first. Don't just jump in a very foolish way at something just because you're sick of the status quo. Like, you need to find sources of excitement and curiosity and adventure in healthy avenues versus just like turning your life upside down to go off, again, down this path that has absolutely no guarantees. You can do that, but if you're expecting it all to work out, again, you may be less than excited about the results. And I only say that in terms of some sort of connection that comes in. It's really being like relayed to me as it might be foolish. It might be foolish and it might not end well, and it's only presenting as a page too. So this would be a small offer or a collaboration where, again, it excites your emotions. It's like you start to dream. Like starry-eyed of potential and what could be, but it's not necessarily coming from the most mature place, or the opportunity isn't at its peak maturity where you could really gain success and monetize it, if that makes sense. Yeah, allow it to mature. It's not saying you can never go after this, and certainly, like, for those who want to change careers or your job or whatever, of course, you should absolutely do it. I would pursue it a little bit more before you jump ship in the next week or so. And again, there's context to that too, right? If it's brand new, if you're out of your territory, if you're going off of blind faith, I would say it's not a good week to do that. Moving on. Really, sometimes I'm told to like really, you know, hone in on something, and then it becomes like this obsessive story. I mean, it doesn't totally surprise me because Leo is associated with children, childhood, you know, teaching, things of that sort. You do have a lot of children coming through in the reading, so I don't know if it's your inner child, if you're being asked to honor that. I don't know if there's new babies in your family being born. I don't know if you're trying to get pregnant or news of pregnancy. I have 5 cards that are in different ways talking about children, you know, parent-child dynamics, so that just might be a theme to the next week or so. So if you have a young fire sign child, although I guess that could be you too. This is where it gets muddled. So anyway, I'm just going to relay it this way. You can change the roles around. A young fire sign child may need a little bit of extra support or encouragement this week. Again, there's like this wide-eyed with possibility, but rather than viewing it as, you know, the world is my oyster, it's the opposite. They're like stunned in fear, like deer in the headlights. Like there's so much going on, they're confused, and I think they're just feeling emotionally overwhelmed, but they don't know how to express that. Possibly because they're too young to even totally understand that this is a feeling and I have to do something with it. Like it seems like a younger child, like, you know, 10 years old or so, you know, something like that. And, you know, it might be your niece, it might be your cousin, but I guess it's coming up in your reading because you have a connection to them. It could be your daughter, right? I don't know. And so specifically for my Leo rising gang, there is a full moon in Aquarius happening in your 7th house of long-term relationships, contracts, and partnerships. So something is coming to completion or a culmination in that area of your life. Saturn has been sitting there for quite some time, so it's probably something that you've been struggling with. And that's not a bad thing, but it's forcing you to show up to that area of your life and take responsibility. So you may be healing, wounds from, I know this sounds cheesy, but like your inner child that have manifested or expressed themselves or continue to play out in your current marriage. And you may be doing some that's what this reading started out with, some very deep, thoughtful insight about things, especially from a mother figure that were projected onto you, that you unconsciously were sort of bringing into romantic partnerships and replaying out whatever, that fear of abandonment or whatever. That's coming to a head in terms of culmination and completion. So yay, we don't have to do that anymore if you don't want to. If you actually choose to do the healing work, healing your inner child, or if you've been applying, I don't think that's the right word, but for adoption, right? You're going to get the baby, you're going to get the child, or that process may be coming to an end, but again, it really requires you to step up and be responsible and go through the motions and do sort of like the taxing work for it that we don't necessarily enjoy, but you reap the reward in the end. Saturn, right? Jupiter has also entered that part of your chart, again, for my Leo rising specifically, but it could be anyone out there. So again, Jupiter bringing children, childlike enthusiasm, buoyancy, growth, expansion of your family unit, whether it's by blood or adoption, or you understand what I mean? Possibly money opportunities. Maybe. That's not the first message that jumped out, but it's possible. I feel like there's just a sad child or a confused child. If you have a child who's dating for the first time, it's like, I don't know, they got broken up with, or there's a child that's grieving silently. And it might be a Leo child. Maybe that's you. And like their soul is so spirited and joyful, and they have such a lovely energy about them, but it's like they've lost touch with it. They've gone through something that really triggered their emotions, and it almost feels like they've been holding their breath underwater for possibly years. Like it's time to like come up to the surface and like I don't even know what this is, but that's what I mean. Like there's so much water signs. There's so much like just the idea of being underwater. For a fire sign, that's very overwhelming. Fire can't thrive when you throw it in the ocean, right? It needs to come up to the surface and get some sunlight, right? That may be sort of a metaphor of hiding yourself away, not feeling comfortable being social at this time, or going out in public, or you get home from work and you just want to be alone. There's value in that if it is restorative and generative, is that the right word? I don't know. If it allows you to thrive so that you can get out there and kick ass again, but some of you, it's almost become a crutch that has become unhelpful. I don't know if toxic is too big a word, but it's like you suddenly fell into this pattern of solitude, and then you forgot that you're meant to go out and get out there with the rest of the gang again. And I'm not rushing you, but I mean, this makes so much sense to me. You literally have your planet, luminary, the sun, right? The ruler of Leo, there's that nice lion, showing up in your 12th house of like self-undoing. The 12th house is what's hidden from you. It sometimes rules your unknown enemies. And what I'm getting at is it might be you. You may actually be putting yourself in a circumstance where you're so isolated and you think that's what you need to heal, when really it might actually be the opposite. You need to heal something in your household. So it could be the current person you're living with, or again, it may have to do with something more generational. Because it's never going to get better unless you address it. All right, I'm going to end you with a couple high-vibing messages, well, as best I can. And some of this has been very high vibe. I hope you view it as that as well. But I want to get you messages that are helpful, even though we love, the sunshine and rainbow messages too. The Queen of Cups showing up in your 11th house of friendships, so possibly a female water sign. It doesn't have to be. It could be anybody who's very intuitive, very in tune with the universe, a seer, a psychic. You and your friends may be going to see a psychic, or, I don't know, playing around with tarot cards, doing something that opens up your ability to receive those messages from the universe. Get in touch with your intuition. That's what the Queen of Cups says. And it might be a friend who sort of encourages you to do so. Yeah, an opening up. There's something about being so weighed down by water. It's like you have to, what would you call it? You have to take a sponge and like squeeze it out. There's too much water. It's weighing you down. That's what I mean. There's too much heavy emotions, or I hate to call it baggage, that sounds negative, but there's too much that you're holding on to, and some of it you don't need anymore, but you don't know any better, that you can let go. Or you can squeeze it out so that it's not a part of your narrative anymore. A soaking wet sponge is no good for anyone, right? It doesn't do anything, and if anything, it's going to start to smell and rot, right? Like, metaphors, of course, but yeah, interesting. You have like my two, what I call like, mystical psychic cards showing up in your 11th house of friendship. So some of you may be exploring, it's so funny, I just heard sexuality. with friends. Whatever. That's fine. What I was trying to say, and I'm sure that came out for a reason, was you may be exploring spirituality within groups of people. You may be healing traumas in some sort of group, especially groups that specifically work towards healing sexual trauma. Or do you understand what I mean? Like a sexual abuse of some kind. If that's not you, again, you don't need to freak out or panic. It might be a friend. You may end up being a confidant for a friend who has been holding back that secret for a very long time. They may actually be able to cathartically release it and express it to you because they trust you with their secrets. Very mystical, spiritual tarot reader cards here. So if any of you are interested in learning tarot, maybe this is, maybe you're going to feel that calling to do so, or maybe you're going to get a tarot reading, or do you understand what I mean? There's a very strong connection to friendship groups, or it doesn't even have to be friendship. Larger groups of people, a community that comes together with similar purposes and intentions. So again, healing in some kind, or getting in touch with a more spiritual, even, I don't know, something like a cult or spiritual. Anyway, you guys get it. All right, Queen of Wands, there you are in your power. Boom. Yeah, you're a powerhouse. Don't you forget it, Leo. Do you believe it? You got to believe in yourself, or else no one else will, right? But you know what? Sometimes you need people to remind you, and that's okay too. You don't need to do it all on your own. Always try and immerse yourself with people who love and support you despite your flaws, right? Really cool. All right, tell me about this Chariot in the house of dating. Again, this could be a road trip. This could be connecting with a Cancer. Some of you may give birth to a Cancerian child. Yeah, travel. Travel with a romantic partner. If you're currently single, I would say get your butt out there and do some traveling, some exploring. Even if it's by yourself, obviously be safe, but you may connect with someone and maybe it starts off as a friendship and then maybe it becomes romantic later. Someone who teaches, a teacher, or possibly a Libra, or someone who works in governments, or like a financial advisor or something. I don't know. Or again, a teacher. A lot of teaching stuff going on here. All right, I almost called you Libra, but I didn't. Leo. That's what I got for you guys this week. I hope this was helpful. Please let me know in the comments below what you resonated with. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you soon for more tarot. Bye, guys.